Ignorance is expensive!
Another episode of Ignorance is Expensive. So, here's the latest thing that has been bugging me. This is especially for those who live in Chicago, most especially for those who live in Logan Square. Basically, there's like what used to be a train system in Chicago that runs along the street of Bloomingdale. Bloomingdale Avenue is basically 1800 North. However, because that trail has not been used for because the train system on Bloomingdale Trail has not been used for such a long time, they decided to convert it into something more like a trail, the Bloomingdale Trail, where people can walk on it, bike on it, etc. And so this has become a city project, which sounds well and good, except, well, here's the problem. So that they can do this work, there are usually parking spaces along the Bloomingdale Trail. In order for their trucks and construction workers, in order for them to get through, they have to restrict parking along the trail and very close to where I work in Logan Square. And so for these workers to come and do what they need to do, they put up these signs saying no parking, tow zone. But here's the funny thing. At first, they restricted parking until November 30th. So right after Thanksgiving. But then, funny thing is, they put up this restriction in late September. They didn't do any work until like early November. Then they realized they'll need more time. So close to when we could go back to parking along the trail again, they then extended the no parking restriction, or they extended the restriction until December 31st of last year, 2013. So everyone in that area basically took a deep breath and said, fine. Even though it meant it would be hard to find parking, because on the street where I work, there are no parking restrictions. The street south of that and the street north of that, and to a point the street east of that, northeast of that, there were parking restrictions. It was parking by permit only, and the only people who had the permits to park there were people who lived on that block. And so parking for us has always been very difficult, which is why we depended on that on parking along Bloomingdale. But then, in the middle of December, they then put up another sign saying no parking until February 28th, 2014. Then we had a problem. So this is what I did. I wrote to the Alderman of the 35th Ward where I work, and I explained the situation and the dilemma. That because we have no restrictions on our parking on our part of the street, I can't give away my street or you'll know where I work, but because of that, there was and all these other streets had permit parking only, we basically were hard pressed to find parking spots. So I made 3 suggestions. 1, either find some way to allow for us to park and the workers to work. The other one would be to temporarily require permit parking on our street for the people who live and work there until they were done with the work, or to lift the permit parking restrictions from all the other streets until the work is done. So the alderman of the 35th Ward is Ray Colon. Basically, he's the guy who when the owner of Chick-fil-A, when he was asked in an interview what he thought of same-sex marriage, and he said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm against it. That alderman who had there's a process. Chick-fil-A wanted to open one of its locations in his ward because the guy honestly answered a question in an interview, even though it had nothing to do with this food. Ray Colon had gotten all hot and bothered and said, well, I'm going to see to it that his location is not opened in my ward. And so basically he gets all hot and bothered, gets himself on the news talking about this. But take it from someone who works and lives in that area. That's all the guy's good for. 'Cause we've had so many problems in that ward which he ignores. Just like he ignored my letter. He did absolutely nothing. And he didn't respond. He didn't do anything. And the funny thing is, ever since the end of the year, there has not been any work done on that stupid trail. So, but we still can't park there. The whole area is barren. No work has been done on that trail since maybe mid to late December. Yet, we have a hard time finding parking where I have to park sometimes 2 to 3 blocks away because there's no other place to park, because with the snow and everything not being dug up and taking up all of the spaces, we have no other place to park because he won't get off his butt and do something. Yet one guy, when cornered, offers an honest opinion and leaves it at that, and he gets all hot and bothered. See, that's the thing about politicians like that. He's a sensationalist. Like, whenever there's a hot button issue, you better believe he'll say something. But when stuff needs to be done in his own ward, he will do absolutely nothing. So as of this day, there have been no trucks, no workers along Bloomingdale, no work being done, yet we still can't park there. And the thing about Chicago is, since the politicians send their footmen out into the streets, otherwise known as meter maids and meter men, it doesn't matter that no work is being done. If we park there, we're going to get ticketed. If we're lucky, we'll get towed if we're not. It's just stupid. I mean, you have all of these people needing parking spaces, and his office will do absolutely nothing. I mean, how much would it cost to put up temporary signs saying, on my particular block, parking by permit only? How much would it cost to put up signs for, until the work is done, lifting the bans? Okay, maybe people pay money for those permits, but still, when we workers work in his ward, we're going to get hungry. We are going to buy in restaurants in his ward. When we're low on gas, we're going to buy gas in his ward. Well, not me, because I don't believe in buying gas in the city. I can buy it a lot cheaper where I live, like out in the suburbs. But not only are we filling his coffers with our money, but for those who live there, who live on that block, They're actually paying taxes, and those taxes pay his salary. So, where does he get off ignoring us when we have a right to be able to park where we work, where we live? So, I will say this. If you live in Logan Square in Chicago, and if you live in Ray Cologne's ward, when the time comes to vote, even though you're hard-pressed to find an alderman or a politician in Chicago or in Illinois or in Cook County that is actually about something, about helping people, you already know he is not. He does not care about you. Unless you're a lobbyist, unless you are a rich person who lives in the area and funds his campaign, you're just a pawn in his whole game. So vote for someone else. Give someone else a chance. But this Ray Cologne, it's just so ignorant. And because of his ignorance, we pay the price. We pay the price when we risk getting tickets for parking somewhere where we know we're not supposed to park, but there's nowhere else to park. Like, we pay when we're wasting gas trying to circle the block, hoping someone will leave that parking space. We pay when we're late for work or late getting home because we have to park so far away. When Bloomingdale, there are parking spaces galore, but we can't use them because they're reserved for workers who aren't working. And if you want more information about the Bloomingdale Trail, you can go to www.the606.org. So www.the606.org. But the way I see it is, Ray Cologne is he's basically just like most politicians in Chicago, if not all. Like where I used to live, there was this one alderman. It was 37th Ward. This was like over 15 years ago. I forgot her name. Emma Mitz, I think. So basically what happened was, like, there was this pothole in the middle of the street, really big. I think it was that. It could have been something else. And so I basically had called and I asked for her to arrange for that pothole to be filled. And the people at the office basically said, yep, we've spoken to the alderwoman. She will handle it. So one day I actually called. She wasn't there, so I left a message in her voicemail saying, I heard that you're going to handle this. Thank you. Guess what she did? She said, I appreciate you leaving your message, but I would appreciate it even more if you wrote to me saying thank you. Excuse me? So, okay, so I guess if I wrote her that letter saying thank you, she'll put it in a box or something so that when she needs an ego boost, she'll look at it. Give me a break. And the funny thing is, that pothole was never even filled. See, that's the thing about Chicago politicians. Like, especially those who work in these in minority areas, is that they claim that they're about the community, about the ward, about their people, when the simple fact is they don't give a crap. Just like the state of Illinois, or I think he's a United States representative, Luis Gutierrez, a guy like that guy, he's just another sensationalist. He doesn't give a crap about his district. Yet, when it comes to immigration reform, you better believe he will have a microphone and a camera talking about immigration rights and that they're targeting certain people and that it's racism and they have to look out for his people. But his district is in a poor area. What does he do for his district? Not a darn thing. So, yep. Well, what can I say? Ray Colon, if you're watching this, do your job. Do your job. Listen to the people. Because otherwise, just be honest with yourself. The only people you the only people you want to please with this stupid trail are like the tourists, the tourists, or people who are a bunch of gentrifiers who didn't even grow up in the area but bought themselves a brownstone and said, you know what would make this area more pretty? A trail. But if you really look at it, the people who actually live in that area, those who have cars, those and other types of people, they would rather be able to find a place to park. They would rather you do something about the gangs than for a stupid trail. If they had to choose between more control over the gangs, more places to park, and the Bloomingdale Trail, that stupid trail will go at the bottom of the list. What you need to do is find yourself a richer ward where the people don't care because they don't have to park on the street. They can park in their garages. Well, that's all I can say. But basically, that's the reason why Chicago is so poor. I keep saying ignorance is expensive. Well, that's because you have an ignorant mayor, you have ignorant alderpersons, you have ignorant board heads, like the person who runs CTA, he's ignorant. They're always saying that they have no money, yet when they get money, they mismanage it. So that's why Chicago is going to the dogs. That's why even tourists don't want to come here anymore. And that's why within 10 to 20 years, Chicago will be just like Detroit. Because you have nothing but ignorant people running it. That's it.